Hi Virgo, welcome to your mid-March 2020 General Tarot Update. It's Raina here. So I've been doing different ways of picking cards, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. Okay. Heart of the matter is the Queen of Wands. This is a card associated with the sign of Sagittarius. In terms of people, this can be a female boss, a female supervisor, a mother, or if you are a working mother, this can be that as well. This type of person is someone that it's not supposed to be in the upright position. It can be a positive individual. However, there may be an overbearing quality of this individual. If this is not you, if this is not a facet of you, then this person may come across to you as being overbearing because the fire energy may make them quite forthright well, forthright, there's nothing wrong with that, but very forceful in getting what they want, for instance, and trying to get attention. Queen can be the mother or the mother-in-law, and perhaps this is not necessarily a bad person, but somebody who's trying to feel important, feel like they matter. The queen, it's to me also almost like the ego of trying to feel like you have a place. So an example would be if somebody has a child and the mother-in-law gives these tips because they have been a mother and maybe your first time mother, and you know they have all this knowledge that they're kind of like, it's not necessarily lording over you, but they just they want to feel like they're useful, that they have this. But it's not just about being useful, it's a status of like, and that's why I say the ego, but it doesn't mean that the person is just completely doing it to be, to create problems, is what I'm getting at. In the past position, we have the Four of Wands, and this is indicative of a happy home environment. And with the Queen of Wands, and it can be like moving house or, you know, like anything that has been coming up for you around the home, some positive developments there. And then with the Queen of Wands, maybe even like in your case, if you had been staying home with your children, if you're a woman, I guess, you know, a man, the Queen, I usually do read for a gender, but if you have a man who is doing that kind of nurturing role of taking care of children, for instance, then I would definitely read this for a man too. But a parent who is also working now, maybe, you know, making that transition from the home to the to their career because the children have reached a certain age, then perhaps that is indicated with this card. This can also be somebody who is your supervisor, and that kind of, or if you've come from working from home and going into the workplace. The higher message is the Moon card, which is about something that you don't know, So again, if the Queen of Wands is a different person from you, this person may have their own agenda that they're not quite revealing about why they're doing what they're doing. If they're trying to take over, or if you feel like you're in this situation and this woman is coming, between you and your spouse, and then you kind of like talk yourself out of believing that, it may be something that you need to look at, because perhaps they do have an ulterior motive. And like I said, I did pull this in the upright position, so I don't know if they're being evil necessarily. They may just be trying to get their own needs met, and they feel like this is, they feel like they're losing their adult child who is with you now, and that's the way that they try to make themselves feel more relevant. But just making sure that if you're dealing with, for instance, an in-law, maybe a mother-in-law who's being very, overstepping her boundaries, that as a Virgo person, you're able to set those boundaries if you haven't done so thus far. And so that really is on you to let that person know. For an example would be if she tends to come over without calling first, that's something that a lot of people do not like. They don't feel comfortable. They feel like their space is being invaded when somebody doesn't respect, that they may have other plans. Even if they're in the home, they may have other things that they want to do, and they don't want to entertain somebody. So you have to be the one to let them know that this is why you don't want this to happen. It's not just a matter of saying you don't want it, but explaining why. Some people would say you don't owe an explanation, and that can open another can of worms. I personally feel that a brief explanation of why you feel a certain way can help to kind of dispel any ideas that make somebody feel insulted by it, and of course that's only for people that are reasonable. It's funny, I'm waiting for this car that needs a muffler to leave, and it just seems like it just keeps staying right there and making noise. Oh my gosh. And I have the moon in Virgo, so I get like easily irritated. Okay, so what crosses you is the Ace of Swords. And this is what I'm talking about with the moon card, because you have to make sure that you're not lying to yourself, that you're really seeing things in a balanced way. This is kind of a weird reading, Virgo, because I have a feeling that there are some things going on that are kind of like I'm not mentioning that have to do with this situation with the Queen of Wands. And I can't really think of, I can't make those connections very easily. And that does happen sometimes when I do a reading where it really is hard to tie everything together. But then people will tell me what the cards meant to them. And it's like, oh yeah, I should have said that. It was something that I probably could have said. But it doesn't really matter if I touch upon your particular situation. The important thing is that whatever is going on for you that's kind of like a pressing matter, which is what I would feel that the central card that I picked, the first card that I pick, is kind of like a pressing matter. Whatever's going on for you, the bottom line is to see the truth in it, and not to try to make excuses for a person or a situation that is occurring. A lot of you probably, if you follow astrology, you might know that Neptune is currently transiting through its own sign of Pisces, and this opposes a person with the sun in Virgo, because that's your opposite sign. And I mean, you know, it depends on what degree, whether it's a real opposition or not. But just in general, you have two diametrically opposed types of signs, even though you have some connection being complementary signs. But there's a lot of differences between you and Pisces. And that can affect even how you view yourself. You may feel like you don't really have an identity. And that's why I'm saying with the Queen of Wands, that sense of, oh, good, now I was raising my child for a few years and it was great, but I felt like I was kind of isolated from the world, and now I'm going back into the world. Understanding that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to feel like you understand yourself better. It's not dependent on outer situations. Just like if you quit your job to stay at home with your child, and even if you feel like you're isolated, or you don't have a sense of purpose beyond raising a child, which to me is a super important purpose. But I understand if there's that feeling of giving to another person fully, but not feeling like you have something that expresses you as an individual, that it's going to be solved by a particular job. It's really an inside job, and it really is not dependent on a particular type of work that you're doing or what have you. So with the Ace of Swords, maybe there's something you're still not looking at that you need to look at. What's coming in is represented by the Queen of Cups. So here we have another queen, this time, and this is associated with Cancer, and it's very intuitive and creative. Yeah, that's another thing I didn't really mention, which I should have. The Moon card connects with creativity, and so it might be one of those situations where you're kind of denying what you're really here, what your purpose or your mission is, which has an artistic side to it. And maybe you're trying to be so pragmatic, like a typical Virgo person, and not acknowledging that you have this within yourself that needs to be expressed, that can't wait to be expressed. Also with the Queen of Cups, tuning into your intuition. Yeah, and that's the Moon too, is the intuition, you know. And that was the spiritual message. Tuning in for even practical matters. If you're feeling like you don't have a clear path, so that you know what you need to do. The outcome is the Three of Pentacles. You're embarking upon something that really does have practical value, that, where you can connect with others and produce something that can have a long-lasting effect. These are co-workers. That's the Three of Pentacles. It's a great card for financial abundance, which may be something that you have been also looking for. So I think overall that this is really about balancing home life and the creative life and the practical side of life. Okay, Virgo, that's what I have for you. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you'd like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.